morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all. Welcome to Green Hope Foundation's side event at the United Nations Ocean Conference titled Addressing Ocean Conservation Through an Intersectional Feminist Lens. My name is Kehkasha. I am the founder president of Green Hope Foundation, and I am delighted to be your moderator for this side event. Today's side event brings together the voices of women from ocean-dependent countries from across the world, from small island developing states like Kiribati, Suriname, and Seychelles, to other ocean-dependent communities like Canada and the UAE, to highlight the critical and often unseen role that women and girls play in ocean conservation, focusing on the intersectional ground-level work being undertaken by women and girls in all of their diversity in different parts of the world in creating a sustainable ocean-based economy. At the outset, it is crucial to vociferously and unequivocally state that if we want to save our oceans, we must make women a part of the solution. As a grassroots social innovation enterprise that has been working amongst coastal communities from Kiribati to Suriname, we at Green Hope Foundation have witnessed how women and girls from these impacted regions face disproportionate challenges that continue to be ignored, and policymaking continues to propagate generalized solutions that do not address any of these specifics. Women depend on the ocean for livelihoods as much as other genders, yet their voices are not heard loudly enough when it comes to solving the crises facing our ocean and seas. Why should this kind of patriarchy and misogyny continue to hamper progress on this critical facet of conservation when globally there has been significant momentum on gender parity? We must translate and extend that into action for a healthy ocean so that we have a chance of tackling the crisis facing the largest life-sustaining ecosystem on our planet. Despite the limited data that is available, we know, for example, that more than half of seafood workers worldwide are women. They play an essential role in ensuring a reliable supply of food on which 3 billion people depend on for their daily source of protein. Yet, across the supply chain, there is substantial segregation of work and pay by gender, with women all too often denied a voice in fisheries management. The challenges facing the ocean are neither gender blind nor gender neutral. Major ocean problems like plastic pollution, illicit fishing, declining fish stocks, the climate crisis, and ecological collapse disproportionately affect women. However, when women are empowered and there is gender parity, they bring unique viewpoints to the table that improve coastal management, community resilience, and the ability to personalize solutions. We have implemented several such initiatives with women at the forefront that have successfully helped to build long-term resilience amongst coastal communities. It is therefore imperative that to truly gain traction in ocean conservation across all sectors, women need to be empowered as leaders in the sustainable use and conservation of the ocean. And we are honored to have with us today an eminent panel of speakers. Our first panelist is Monique Poole, founder of the Green Heritage Fund Suriname. Monique, you have the floor.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I thank Kekashian Basu for the invitation to speak at this side event of the UN Ocean Conference. It's a very important topic that she wants to address here, and that's intersectional feminist perspective on ocean conservation. My name is Monique Poole, and I am in Paramaribo, Suriname in South America, on the unceded land originally inhabited by the Kalinya and Lokono. Some centuries ago, my ancestors migrated to these regions, most of them involuntary or lured under false pretenses. We are also here in the ecosystem of the coast of Suriname, with its rich and unique biodiversity of the mangrove swamp and marsh forests. The North Brazil Shelf large marine ecosystem lies adjacent to our coast. Its rich biodiversity and oxygen-producing plankton support the coastal area of Suriname with its rich fauna and flora. We thank these natural systems for the life they make possible in this part of the world. So this is to acknowledge and thank the ecosystems that support our human life. And it's really important that we keep thinking of this. When we talk about intersectional feminism, I think we talk about different perspectives on, for example, in this case, ocean conservation. Well, I want to bring another topic to the table when we talk about this, because we always think from a human-centric approach. But what about the animals that live in the sea, the ecosystem itself, and the pressures that it's under? We should consider those as well when we think about ocean conservation. And it is really important, I think, because when we talk about intersectional feminism, you look at culture. Well, there are, and we were at sea this last year, and we saw a whole pot of false killer whales. And it's quite clear that these animals have a culture, that they live together in a certain way. So when we talk about ocean conservation, we shouldn't just look at our anthropocentric perspective on things, but we should also consider the animals, the ecosystems, and our role in it. So in my foundation, the Green Heritage Fund Suriname, we focus on working on the coastal area of Suriname, which includes the swamps, marsh forests, and the mangroves, and then adjacent to that, the whole marine ecosystem. When we think about those things, we see that a lot of women are involved in conservation work. That is from marine-related work in the fishery sector. The men go out and fish, but once it comes to the shore, it's the women that process this fish and make sure it gets to market. We are very dependent on these systems. For Suriname, it's really important that we maintain our fisheries at a level where it can continue to sustain us. And that's why it's always important to not just look at it from our perspective, but also from the perspective of the ecosystem and the animals that are part of that. And I can give a nice example, because the traditional knowledge of the people is such that they know that the fish need to grow to a certain size. If they take them out too young, then there will be problems in the ecosystem. And they know this, they have the traditional knowledge, and this knowledge is shared among them. So when we want to protect these systems, we need to involve everybody. Everybody from all the traditional and local people, that use the system, up to also actually looking at the ecosystem itself. And for some of that work, we do need scientific measurements, scientific analyses to make sure that we can then define better where to protect, how to protect, and how we can continue to use the ecosystem without harming it. After all, if the ecosystem is not healthy, then we are going to suffer. And we see this already happening worldwide. We're now working also a lot on marine litter and marine pollution. And it's not just sufficient to recycle. We really have to start thinking about reducing our use of plastics, because plastics is a very important part in the overall economy and driver of climate change, because plastics are, after all, made from fossil fuels. So we need to really think about this ocean conservation, the blue economy. We shouldn't shift now from, because it's getting difficult maybe on land, to basically colonizing the water, because it will have an impact. So we need to really think and consider the whole ecosystem when we want to work on all these different aspects of living and using the ocean, but also coexisting with the ecosystem and with the animals that live in it. So I hope you have very good discussions further today, and we want to make sure that with the work we do, and we involve a lot of women in our work, that we can lay a good basis for maintaining life on this planet. And don't forget, our planet is 70% blue.
Thank you, Monique, for sharing the work that you do in Suriname, the world's most forested country, to help build a sustainable ocean-based economy. You are right. We need to adopt both a human and planetary-centric approach in order to create greater harmony between human beings and nature, so that we do not ever forget the plight of the innocent creatures in our oceans who suffer as a result of anthropogenic actions. Our next panelist is Jeanette Leroux, Coordinator of Environmental Education at the Ministry of Education, Seychelles. Jeanette, you have the floor.
Seychelles' beautiful islands are surrounded by the vast Indian Ocean. As a child, the ocean is our main playground in Seychelles. The ocean is also our main source of income. It supports our main economy, which is fishing and tourism. As we grow up, both boys and girls in Seychelles get the opportunity to explore and learn about the ocean. Ocean carry opportunities, which used to be dominated by men in the past, has now changed. Though fishing remains a dominated male job, girls and women in Seychelles are more interested in taking ocean as a field of study. Many young girls and women are now studying ocean sciences and hold key positions, which has a strong voice when making decisions on ocean matters. At a very young age, both girls and boys learn to swim at school, learn to understand the importance of protecting the ocean, and learn to take actions to protect it. Today, we have youth organizations led by young ladies and girls and are taking action to motivate volunteers to keep plastics away from the ocean. On a weekly basis, they will lead volunteer groups to clean our coastal areas. They will collect data, which later will influence government decisions when it comes to environment protection. For example, such as the banning of single-use plastics and balloons in Seychelles. I would say Seychelles girls and women has a strong voice influencing decisions regarding the ocean in Seychelles. They are at the forefront of ocean protection and are leading actions to protect our oceans. In general, we say girls do love the oceans in Seychelles.
Thank you, Jeanette, for sharing how Seychelles is doing its bit as an ocean-dependent economy, one whose children view the ocean as their playground, to engage all of its stakeholders in protecting our ocean through an intersectional feminist lens. It is so critical for us to understand just how important the ocean is in our day-to-day lives, and that without it, human beings will not be able to survive. Our next panelist is Stephanie Donovan, teacher at the Toronto District School Board. Stephanie, the floor is yours.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Donovan, and I'm an elementary teacher at the Toronto District School Board. Today, I want to share with you my perspectives as an educator around how we teach conservation in classrooms. As a teacher, I see the importance of addressing climate change as the main focus of science programs. Science tends to be dominated by topics where students do not always see firsthand the connection to solving real-world problems. Topics in the curriculum include animals, habitats, machines, energy, structures, soil, electricity, to name a few. But it is only recently that the curriculum has changed to include words like climate change mitigation, First Nations, or environmental impacts on society. This is encouraging, and as educators, we must absolutely begin to change how we teach science. Traditionally, science was based on rote memory skills, tests, and scientific concepts taught in isolation. This often leaves many kinds of students behind or left out of science-related fields, and as a major consequence, students do not see the connection between what they are learning in the classroom and solving real-world problems. In order to address conservation or to make decisions that mitigate climate change, moving forward, students will need the skills of observing, questioning, thinking critically, problem solving, and perspective taking. These are skills that are directly embedded in the Ontario science curriculum, but are not always center stage when science is being taught. School boards across the province put gender issues front and center and provide many opportunities for all genders to be successful. But focusing on girls is something we need to continue to emphasize because we need more female representation in our government and institutions of science where important policy and decisions around conservation are made. Teaching the skills of problem solving and design thinking and mathematical computation will play a role in how humans prepare and plan for climate sustainability. Many of these skills are a focus of various STEM programs across education programs in Canada. And while women make up a large percentage now of many university programs, in Canada in 2020, only 22% of engineering undergraduates are female. It is often these jobs and positions in STEM careers that end up shaping the path we take to solving environmental problems. We need these voices of women in these decisions because the current status quo rarely seems to move the dial on our climate change goals. Canada, being an ocean-dependent country, is not something recognized across the entire country due to our size. Provinces on the west and eastern end of the country feel more closely affected by the changing climate of our oceans. Provinces in between are experiencing chronic and sometimes catastrophic climate events such as floods and droughts and forest fires. But in schools, these events are often seen as being connected. These events are not often seen as being connected to what happens with the state of our oceans and our atmospheric conditions. This is what must change. Oceans need to become front and center in all science curriculums, and all students need to see the reasons why they are learning these concepts and ideas. Teachers need to focus on the skills of inquiry and create conditions that allow all students to work towards learning ways to solve many different kinds of problems that our environment faces. Our oceans are the lifeline of our planet, and they also act as an indicator to how healthy our planet is. What happens in oceans, what happens to oceans, and how we react to problems with oceans will determine the fate of all of our ecosystems. We must ensure that we include all voices when educating children so that the decisions we make to help conserve our oceans are effective and successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie, for sharing how you are using education in your classrooms to empower girls in ocean science to create a new generation of ocean conservation leaders. As you rightly said, there is still such a disparity when it comes to gender equality in STEM, including ocean science. And education is such a powerful tool to help provide opportunities to young girls to follow their dreams and work to conserve our ocean. Our next panelist is Atiyuta Mataite, Chapter Head of Green Hope Foundation, Kiribati. Atiyuta, the floor is yours.
Greetings to you all. My name is Cecilda Mathais, and I will be representing Green Hope Foundation from the islands of Kiribati. Some of you might have heard of Kiribati from its ongoing battle with climate change, greatly advocated by our former president, Senator Thong. For those of you who haven't heard, Kiribati is a string of tiny islands in the middle of the Pacific that covers all 4 hemispheres in an expanse of ocean that is equivalent to the size of the contiguous United States. It is for this exact reason that we depend heavily on our marine resources for survival. The government of Kiribati has focused greatly on the protection and preservation of marine ecosystem through planned management to prevent the overexploitation of these resources. By doing so, the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources recruited the most passionate and hardworking citizens with expertise on the field. And fortunately, Kiribati has now focused their recruits to women. Today, I will address ocean conservation through an intersectional feminist lens. I will be dividing my speech into 2 parts, where I will discuss ocean-related issues in Kiribati and women's vital involvement in conserving the ocean. The ocean covers approximately 70.8% of the surface of the Earth, and for Kiribati, the islands are dispersed over 3.5 million kilometers squared of ocean. We are highly reliant on the ocean for marine resources. However, ocean-related issues have become an obstacle to our country. The biggest threat to our ocean is man-made problems such as overfishing, coastal pollution, habitat destruction, and climate change. Overfishing can change the size of fish remaining, as well as how they reproduce and the speed at which they mature. When too many fish are taken out of the ocean, it creates an imbalance that can erode the food web and lead to a loss of other important marine life, including vulnerable species such as corals. Every year, governments from more developed nations spend billions of dollars on fisheries subsidies, the majority of which directly accelerates harmful overfishing. Subsidies lead to overcapacity in fishing fleets and allows vessels to fish harder for longer, even when it will not otherwise make economic sense. According to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, 34.2% of fisheries are being overfished. This percentage is too high and has cost global fisheries 83 billion of economic benefit losses. In Kiribati, 250,000 tons of tuna are caught annually and are being shipped off to canneries and markets around the world, leaving insufficient fish stock to sustain local communities. The major issues with conserving our oceans is man-made coastal pollution. Coastal pollution is an emerging issue of the present-day world, agitating the natural balance of the ecosystem. 80% of pollution to the marine environment comes from the land. There is now 5.25 trillion macro and micro pieces of plastic in our environment and 46,000 pieces in every square mile of ocean, weighing up to 269,000 tons. Every day, around 8 million pieces of plastic make their way into our oceans. In Kiribati, there is a 69% of waste dump, which includes 36% of plastic waste, 14% metal, 10% waste oil, 7% general garbage, and 2% of chemical waste. Not only is this bad for our marine ecosystems, but it also increases health risks to the civilians, reduces property values, and inhibits the economic growth of the community. Both overfishing and coastal pollutions are linked to habitat destruction of our marine resources and ecosystem. However, I feel like it is a distinct issue that needs to be separated. The destruction of our marine habitats in Kiribati is greatly linked to the overharvesting and unsustainable use of our natural resources. Corals, which are also regarded as marine species, are rarely exploited for commercial purposes, but their destruction is overwhelming and their impact on marine fauna could be drastic. Given our conservative nature, we still use traditional fishing skills passed from our ancestors on a daily basis. These skills ignore the conservation of marine habitats where fishermen disregard the importance of coral reef. The corals could be accidentally destroyed when being stepped on during fishing, or intentionally destroyed as locals try to keep up with our diminishing marine resources. This causes a great strain in the reproduction and sustainability of our marine resources, and the disappearance of coral reefs from our planet could lead to a domino effect of mass destruction. Climate change also plays a crucial role in threatening the conservation of our marine ecosystem and marine life. Climate change, including extreme weather events, are threats to terrestrial and marine ecosystems, with a direct risk to food security of fish-dependent coastal communities. Marine spatial planning can help establish protected areas and support. Climate change also plays a crucial role in threatening the conservation of our marine ecosystem and marine life. Climate change, including extreme weather events, are threats to terrestrial and marine ecosystems, with a direct risk to food security of fish-dependent coastal communities. Observations from Agriculture Division on climate change impacts on pest and disease severity also confirmed that with warmer temperature, scale insect infestation is found to be severe. So we may ask, how do these obstacles relate to women's role in ocean conservation? Progress has been made to highlight and promote the importance of women in contributing to ocean conservation. Kiribati leaders believe that women are the backbone of the village decisions and capable in doing anything men can do, but in a more organized and effective way. This is all due to their hard work from different homes, and which have eliminated doubt that involving them in fisheries management will be unsuccessful. The involvement of women in conserving the ocean strengthens the awareness of management plans of fisheries regulations. One of the biggest highlights in Kiribati is the establishment of the Women in Tapunipera initiative. The Association of the Women in Tapunipera is a grassroots initiative that is led by the women of the community without external inputs. The initiative of Tapunipera's women is the first of its kind in Kiribati in the sense that women have become more active in the implementation and also the monitoring and enforcement of communities' fisheries management plan. The Tapunipera Women Association is a distinct institution not just for the community, but also for the governance of Kiribati. Working with the opposite sex is culturally sensitive, especially for women in Kiribati, as it may sometimes lead to different interpretations by both men and women in the country. These limitations prevent the government of Kiribati from using their full potential to really engage with community members in a more informal manner and build stronger relationships. However, investing in women and girls create ripple effects throughout the entire communities. Government officials have mentioned how this women's association supporting fisheries management would help them to work more deeply, touch the core issues surrounding fisheries management, and feel more connected to the villages. The institution has helped the government reach out to more fishermen indirectly through their wives and have had a greater in-depth discussion. Therefore, ocean conservation is still an ongoing battle that is critical for ocean-dependent countries such as Kiribati. The depletion and diminishing of marine resources pose drastic outcomes for locals who are highly dependent on marine resources for survival. Initiatives and implementations have been established to combat these issues. However, the involvement of women in the area is vital for conserving our marine and its ecosystem. When there is empowerment and gender parity, women bring to the table different experiences that enrich coastal management, community resilience, and fresh perspectives in tailoring solutions. Across all sectors, women need to be empowered as leaders in the sustainable use and conservation of the ocean, like plastic pollution, illegal fishing, plummeting fish stocks, climate change crisis, and ecological breakdown. Therefore, it is highly recommended that women should be at the forefront of major ocean emergencies at a grassroots level.
Thank you, Atiuta, for sharing the challenges faced by Kiribati as a small island developing state and how it is imperative that women are involved in the rebuilding efforts. It is truly horrifying that so much waste just washes up and accumulates in the marine ecosystems that make up Kiribati. And as you said, it not only affects the marine creatures, it also affects the inhabitants, the human inhabitants of the Kiribati Islands. Our next panelist is Pragna Vasupal, Director and Head of Events of Green Hope Foundation. Pragna, you have the floor.
Hello, everyone. I am Pragna Vasupal, the Director of Events of Green Hope Foundation. I'm delighted to be a part of the side event on the topic addressing ocean conservation through an intersectional feminist lens. As we all know, oceans are the lifeline of our planet. From the air we breathe to regulating the climate, and not to mention the 3 billion people that depend on the oceans for their livelihoods. Oceans are a pristine resource to mankind. Unfortunately, however, we live in an era of increasing threats to the global oceans. Overfishing, plastic pollution, and ocean dumping are just a few examples of threats faced by our oceans. These human activities have led to the deterioration of marine life and resources due to ocean acidification, dying coral reefs, and increasing temperatures. All these threats manifest into negative feedback loops that result in typhoons and cyclones that destroy the lives of the people living in coastal areas. This raises the pivotal issue of ocean degradation and the importance of sustainable management of ocean resources. But we need to recognize that we can achieve our goal of healthy oceans only if we begin to perceive ocean conservation from a gender lens. The key to marine conservation is to challenge the deep-rooted gender norms inherent in the fishery supply chain and coastal management sectors. Only by viewing this issue from an intersectional feminist lens do we stand a chance of preserving the planet's largest ecosystem. Historically, women have played an unprecedented and crucial role in the maritime industry. However, due to the existence of traditional patriarchal cultures, women's role in the industry has been overlooked or downplayed. Women are generally involved in the low-skilled, low-paid jobs that are often more prone to risks of unemployment due to scarce resources and funds. These jobs are typically not protected by health, safety, and labor rights, making them increasingly vulnerable during tough times. Women play an essential role in the fisheries economy, especially through their active participation in small-scale and artisanal fisheries. They represent 70% of the global workforce in aquaculture, playing key roles in fishing, processing, and marketing. They're also responsible for effective aquatic resource management at the community level. Despite all of that, women never reap the full benefits of their labor. Their hard work and contributions in the maritime industry hardly ever translate into a position in the decision-making process. Not only that, but women are also deprived of economic benefits. They earn 36% less than men for the same jobs. They suffer from a lack of resources, proper training, and exposure to the necessary equipment. In addition to that, the working conditions of these low-level jobs are also unhygienic and unfair. Women are also disproportionately affected by climate change-induced disasters, such as floods, storms, and typhoons, which only exacerbates the inequalities they face because of their gender. Another major challenge that remains unaddressed is the lack of disaggregated data representing this industry. Women and men fishers target different habitats, resulting in a variety of different species in the market. Yet, the statistics related to fisheries economies fail to capture these contributions of women, thus presenting an underestimation of the human catch and diversity of species. Needless to say, women remain under-acknowledged and invisible. This needs to change if we want to protect our oceans. We need to stand against the traditional norms present in these societies that confine women to work jobs that are closer to households and question the patriarchy that labels seafaring activities as masculine jobs. Women are the driving factor when it comes to sustainable consumption and resource management. Furthermore, indigenous women of fishery communities possess unique knowledge and expertise in coastal management and sustainability. Many case studies have proven that women lead better sustainable practices. One such study is the experiment conducted in the Mexican and Colombian Pacific, where it was found that women presented more sustainable catches than men. Due to the traditional roles of women as the primary caregivers, women perceive and respond to environmental problems differently. They view the oceans as a pristine resource rather than a source of economic exploitation, and therefore resort to sustainable practices that ensure the welfare of the marine ecosystem. They are also at the forefront of sustainable consumption and can prove to be an effective solution to preventing plastic pollution of the oceans. As the caretakers of the home, they control the household purchases and tend to make conscious, environmentally friendly choices, such as using reusable bags. Another example that I had the privilege to observe firsthand is the crucial role of women in the mangrove-dependent communities in West Bengal and Bangladesh. In these communities, women play an integral role in mangrove conservation and preventing the pollution of these precious mangroves. As part of Green Hope's work on feminist sustainable development, where we focus on empowering women in marginalized societies, as they are the ones most often left behind. We work on clean water and sanitation, skills building through education, sustainable fishing, and conduct workshops to empower and uplift women in these coastal communities. During our project in Bangladesh, we engaged with coastal communities to propagate sustainable fishing, to ensure that marine ecosystems continue to be bountiful while providing decent work opportunities to the women that depended on them. This also established a circular bioeconomy in the community. All these examples prove that women significantly contribute to better marine resource management, and thus women must have a seat at the decision-making table. Ocean governance lacks the expertise of women, and the leadership of women is exactly what we need in order to preserve our oceans. Therefore, for the effectiveness of ocean governance, we need to acknowledge the contributions of women. By empowering women in coastal communities, we inspire the next generation of trailblazers in marine science and research and maritime industries. It is important that at an international level, we establish guidelines that provide an opportunity for women to secure tenure rights, equal participation in decision-making processes, protection from discrimination, and spaces for women fish workers and their organizations to participate in the monitoring of their implementation. We also need to encourage the collection of sex disaggregated data to recognize and tackle the existing gender inequalities. It is imperative that we break the cultural barriers and blur the boundaries that confine women to low-income jobs. And we need to encourage women to participate in the real decision-making arenas. It is high time that we close this gender gap in the coastal communities for the sake of ocean sustainability. This perspective of addressing ocean conservation through a feminist lens not only advocates for gender equality, but also provides an effective solution to tackle the multiple threats faced by the oceans. The integration and empowerment of women is no longer an option, but the key to saving our oceans from further environmental degradation. Thank you.
Thank you, Pragna, for sharing how critical it is that women's role in ocean protection is recognized. You're right. We need more sex and gender disaggregated data in the ocean conservation space so that women's suffering and challenges are not brushed aside, but are recognized and tackled to create more gender-smart societies that take care of our planet. On that note, thank you so much to all of our panelists for being with us today. Our all-women-led panel today was able to highlight the innovative, science-based, and intersectional solutions being implemented by women and girls across the world to create a circular, ocean-based bioeconomy who are linking the achievement of Goal 14 intrinsically with that of gender equality, Goal 5, to make Agenda 2030 a reality. As all of our panelists have stated, human life cannot survive without our oceans. As responsible citizens of Mother Earth, it is our duty to take care of our planet and ensure gender equality so that together we can create a more sustainable and equitable world for all. Once again, thank you, panelists, for being with us today to discuss such an important topic. Please stay safe, stay connected, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Enjoy the rest of the UN Ocean Conference and have a wonderful day. Thank you and goodbye.